going to be? How good is Silverwolf level 99? Okay. I think the way I see it, right? The way, oh, right, chat, we didn't even talk about EMC. Bro, we didn't talk about EMC. Okay. The way I see it is, okay, let's say, right? Let's say. Okay, let me kill Sparkle real quick. We'll get in the where here. Where? And then we will pretend that Silverwolf is Silver 9. I have literally just called Silverwolf Silver 9 the entire early test video because nobody will actually say Silverwolf level 999. Silverwolf level 999. Silverwolf level. Like, if you say that for the entire guide video, it'll be 50 minutes longer, bro. Silverwolf level 99. So I just call it Silver 9 in the purpose of time. This team, as of this moment, is the best in slot for a sustained clear. Best in slot. However, if you were an elitist, you can kill Hue, slap on EMC. Alright, this will be the highest possible damage for a sustainless clear at full E0. Right, at full E0. I didn't test out the power of like E1 Tribute or like E1 Bible, but this is pretty much the 4 Elation Flagship, bada boom, bada bing, snap, and then yeah, you're gonna do a ton of damage. But the problem with running a sustainless team with Elation is that Elation flagships do not have ways to prevent damage from coming in, right? So like, for example, if you were to compare this with, let's just say, Super Break, right, Firefly. Break sustainless is inherently easier because you have your additional delay from the toughness bar breaking, as well as, let's just say, for example, Runway, Teletubbium, Rebloom, you can delay the AV, right? So you don't really take as much damage. But for Elation Flagship, it is pretty much impossible. You will definitely have to take damage. And the worst part is, there's one major flaw with all Elation units, and that is this right here. Unfortunately, the only thing that's setting back Elation from a super fast clear, you can't use this. Alright? And you don't even have DDD built into the eidolons like E2 Fugue. Alright? So the entire archetype, if you want to do them on a sustainless clear, you really need to make sure that your damage is going to be high enough. Otherwise, I would not recommend trying this out and just stick with the sustain team for now, which is going to be Hue, right? And then when it comes to cost, okay, I can't say everything obviously because otherwise nobody will be watching my video tomorrow because the video is already done. When it comes to vertical investment, will you guys be shocked if I say this E2 changes everything? Probably not, right? Because everyone and their fucking moms know every single main push, every single flag. Oh, of course the fucking main push flagship is gonna be getting a game-breaking E2, right? So, yes, Silver 9's E2 is absolutely game-changing. In fact, combining this with the E1, which is honestly very interesting, this will probably be the highest possible damaging team in the current Elation Shield format, right? Because right now we have the MOC reset, right? We have the MOC reset, which gives you punchlines, right? Where the fuck is the damn thing? Okay, punchline generation. I already know this gives you punchline because I played this literally like 5 billion times. But the one after this is not punchlines. And that is where the problem will arise, especially if you try to run a sustainless team. So in full transparency, I was able to run this sustainless at full E0. It's fine, because I get the punchlines, right? But the next MOC after this, I could not do E0 sustainless because it just took way too much damage, right? So with that being established, if you are thinking of a 2-cost investment, right? Like if you have this team, right? If you have this team right here, if you can invest 2 costs, where would you invest? The answer is only one, by the way. This is the only answer, right? This is, definitively speaking, the most important answer. I wouldn't say it's as bad as like E0 final to E2 final, because E0 Silver 9 is still pretty comfortable to play. Especially, I would say, for the next like 6 weeks. For the current endgame location, right? So E0 Silver 9 is really good. It's just that this E2 is just a little bit absurd. If you take a look at the kit, which we'll be talking about tomorrow when the early access comes out. And then if you want to invest in 1 cost, right? If you only want to invest in 1 cost, I would frankly speaking just get this. This 1 cost is really good. So, bada boom, bada bing. If you want to invest 4 cost, right? 4 cost, I would skip the E1 Yao Guang jump directly into E2 Silver 9 and E2 Sparksy. This E2 Sparksy, as of this moment, right, is not that crazy, because we don't really have a unit that can tie together Sparksy's additional trails as well as punchlines and the skill points, right? But when you combine this with E2 Silver 9, actually, you don't even need to combine it. If you just combine this with Silver 9 as a whole, it will become a lot better. So right now in the vacuum, this E2 Hihi, it is probably like tier 0.5 for an E2, right? It's not as game-breaking as anyone else. But the moment you combine this with Silver 9, then this is gonna be a game-breaking island. So with that in mind, you actually have two different E2s that are like absolutely fucking absurd, which in terms of like vertical investors, right, it is probably gonna be scaling higher than, let's just say, E2 Finon plus like a E2 Servidra. Maybe not as crazy as like E2 Cyrene, because that one is just like, it basically way faster. But I would say it's also quite comparable to E2 Avanite plus E2 Casters. I think that is a very, very good comparison. Then the sustain slot here, which is gonna be at this moment. Okay, well, first of all, wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, why can't I change my skin? What the fuck? Okay. Okay. This EMC, right? I personally think this EMC is like, it's at best a side grade, essentially. It is not as crazy as, for example, RMC. And I don't even think it's as crazy as HMC, mainly because you really only feel EMC's strength when you can actually run with these two together. So all three at the same team. But if you can only pick one, right? So if let's just say you have to kill Sparksy. So you didn't pull Sparksy, you run EMC. So EMC comes here and you run a Hue. This is slight downgrade from Sparksy. It is not like a run Mei versus HMC situation on like who is better. Like people are actively running HMC over run Mei in Super Break right now because you get way more Super Break damage multipliers and you get way more DDD, right? But for EMC, if you can run Sparksy, you will run Sparksy. Assuming you have Yao Guang, right? And if you can run Yao Guang, you will run Yao Guang. So this unit, right? I think they kind of learn from like the mistakes of how insanely strong they made RMC and to a certain extent HMC. So they have toned down on EMC's actual strength to the point where if you already have both, right? If you already have both, you don't really need her, right? If you want to run sustainless, sure. But if you want to run a sustain team, you will just run this and then you wait. You wait. Because eventually, I am 99.999999999% sure they are going to be running a Elation sustain. Probably, right? Because I personally don't think Hue is going to be staying in the team because her buffs actually don't really suit Silver Knight, if you think about it, right? Because if you take a look at Hue's skill, right? Like pre-Nova Flare, post-Nova Flare, this ultimate only gives you energy and attack. Unfortunately, this only benefits Sparksy and Yao Guang. So it's really not as synergistic as you might think with Silver Knight, right? So in the future, when they do release a proper Elation sustain, I think Hue is most likely just going to be pivoting into either a DOT team. I think DOT is still really, really good. Or Saber, right? DOT or Saber. For Archer, I'll probably still sticking with DHPT. And then there really isn't a lot of other like attack scaling DPS that also needs like that much energy regeneration without sacrificing the utility from DHPT, right? So this is a very temporary slot to the extent where I wouldn't even like recommend players. Okay, like right now, if you don't have Hue, right? If you don't have Hue, and you are thinking of exchanging for a Hue, right? Just to run Elation, I honestly would just not bother. Because why exchange for a unit if you're just going to be using temporarily in the Elation flagship and there's no expiry, right? You could just wait a while and see if you really need that Hue sustain. Because to be completely fair, it's perfectly viable to still stick with DHPT. You won't get the energy regeneration for Sparks and Yao Guang, but you can still run him, right? And eventually in the future, when they release the actual Elation sustain, you just slot it in, right? So you could just save this like golden companion spirit for a while. And then you can see for like who else you want. Okay, for example, right? I would literally rather get an E6 Wei Yang than exchange for Huawei, right? So that is what I feel about it. And yes, we do have 7 basically free. Basically free, right? Basically free at this point. So that is pretty much my yapping session about all that. Okay, wait, give me 1 second. Yo, Bob, thank you so much for the super chat. Why not use well sustain in sustainers indeed? You need skill points. The problem with Well Yang, if you run him as a support or a sustain, is that you run out of skill points extremely quickly. You could fix this technically with Sparkle, but at that point, right? At least from my personal experience, the E6 Well Yang can do more damage than the E6 Aircron. Because the E6 Aircron needs a sustain. But the E6 Well Yang is the sustain, right? So that is from what I felt personally. E6 Well Yang is really just like that fun good. In any case, yo, Firefly Ablaze, thank you so much for the 10 months. Where is the ping? Oh, so my mod just didn't ping. Oh no, chat, my mods are sleeping, guys. None of my mods are awake anymore. They have all left. They have all left. So it is what it is. Nobody can ping the Discord anymore. Second of all, is there any change? Is Firefly feel better or is there any... No. Firefly's build is pretty much almost the exact same. You could say you could push for a slightly faster speed because they did say that you get an extension, right? Your combustion mode extends, but that buff is actually really minor because if you already play Firefly, I'm just gonna assume that you have Dahlia. I think that's a very fair assumption, right? And if you play if you are a Firefly main and you don't have Dahlia, I have no fucking idea what you're doing in your fucking lives, but I'm just gonna assume every single Firefly main has Dahlia, right? So because of Dahlia, even if it gets extended, it doesn't really change too much because you can immediately jump back into the ultimate again. So the build is pretty much exact same. Maybe if you want to min-max, you could squeeze in that little bit more speed to fit in within combustion mode before it expires. Or if you can fit in the action value specifically for MOC, you could also make Firefly a little bit slower to come outside of combustion mode so you can get an extra turn to get back into the ultimate again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if you get what I'm saying. It's like if Firefly's ultimate expires, she gets pushed down a little bit because she loses the 60 speed buff, but because she can instantly cast out again, you technically get an extra turn for that additional 1 skill to deal that little bit more toughness, more damage. But I would say that the build is like, it's almost like 0 difference. So add what it, right? And thank you, Pogi, got a glaze. I'll show thank you so much for 10 months. Yo, Bobby, thank you so much. Okay, I'm so sorry, chat, that my alert is like cooked and I have no idea why. Okay, wait, let me see if I can fix this. But I have no idea why is it cooked. It is cooked. Mr. HSR, how is Silver 9 EMC Sparksy plus sustain? Okay, I actually made an entirely separate video, right? Because I'm so hardworking. I made an entirely separate video, 1 hour analysis, where I basically showcased the runs where you ran a EMC plus Yao Guang versus EMC plus Sparksy, right? W streamer, and there it is. I think I deserve 500 subs. Okay, I'm just kidding. But from what I have seen personally, at full E0, right? This was full E0. From what I've seen personally, I'm not saying Sparksy is bad, but EMC could fulfill Sparksy's role better than fulfilling Yao Guang's role. If you get what I'm saying. It's not so much that Sparksy is bad, it is just that in terms of opportunity cost, right? In terms of, bro, why are you guys saying fuck me, guys? I'm merely stating facts, bro, right? I'm literally just stating facts. Because at the end of the day, Sparksy's role, right? Her role, what is her role, guys? What's her role? Her role is to not just be silly, right? Her role is to give you punchlines, right? That is bro's entire kit, right? And the reason why she works so well with Silverwolf is because if you generate a lot of punchlines, you get into the ultimate faster, essentially, right? We know that from live stream. But EMC also does the same fucking role. So because of that, it is more so that Sparksy has a closer substitute compared to the replacement for Yao Guang. That is pretty much it, right? That's pretty much it. Now, although we know that from the live stream, right, EMC can trigger Elation skill one time. So you can cast the Elation skill once for one unit. Yao Guang's, or is it Yao Guang's damage amplification and the double Elation skill proc was more significant compared to a lack of Yao Guang. So that is what I have seen for myself so far, right? So far. But, right, for Sparksy mains, you'll be very happy to know this is still the best in slot. So if you can have both, you will run both. All right, it is not to say that Sparksy is useless, right? This is still, definitively speaking, the fastest clears, even on a full auto, right? Full auto, this is still the best team, right? But if you can only choose one, or like if you're thinking like, let's just say you are someone that didn't want to commit to either Sparksy or Yao Guang back then, because you didn't know how Silver 9 was going to be playing, right? So now you see Silver 9's kit, and you're like, okay, in the future, if they're going to rerun, I will only pull one. If that is the case, I would actually pull Yao Guang first, and then you wait and see if you can get yourself the Sparksy. Because there's another thing that also kind of diminishes Sparksy's role, and that is the 2 cost on Silverwolf. So for free to place, if you can only invest 1 cost, I'll get this first, and then temporarily run EMC. If you can invest 2 costs, right? If you can invest 2 costs, I will just immediately jump into Silverwolf E2. If you can invest 3 cost, if you do have 3 costs, that is when, okay, which is basically E2 Silverwolf plus 1, that is when Sparksy actually comes out stronger, because your E2 Silverwolf's eidolon value actually goes up higher with Sparksy. So it's a little bit of like a, it's like an incentive for the light spenders to get Sparksy more compared to like the free to players, right? Like if the players can't afford a E2 Silver 9, still Yao Guang. But if you can afford it, then Sparksy is gonna be actually more suitable. So you can utilize the E2 more than the E0. So that is pretty much how I will go about investing, right? Bro, I have so much copium believing Yao Guang will be replaced by Siren or the version 4 like Tribute. Don't give me despair. Okay, that was honestly what I thought as well. But from what I see as of this current moment, right, her role is better. But we also have one more factor to consider, which is the Elation sustain. Right? It all depends on this Elation sustain. So if the Elation sustain can also give you a shit ton of punchlines, right? Because I have no idea what is the Elation sustain, but if the Elation sustain can also give you a shit ton of punchlines, then unfortunately Yao Guang is just gonna be like irreplaceable. Because she can give you the buffs as well as the aha instance for the entire team, which is 4 Elation skills, right? But if the Elation sustain doesn't give you as much punchlines, and like they also have like a aha instance proc, then maybe Yao Guang will be a little bit more replaceable, but that one is like completely up in the future, and I have no idea what it's gonna be, right? But it's just as of this current moment, this is pretty much what I thought, right? You collect teams, and then can you make a flowchart for this? You're stupid. Yo, Prayuda Biz from Kickers. Okay, hold up. Let me try the time. Okay, we have 24 more minutes, which is quite nice. If I could make a flowchart for this, right? If I could make a flowchart for this. Bop. All right. Step 1. All right. Step 1. If you are playing Elation Flagship, right? If you wanted to play Elation Flagship, choose Silver 9 or even Nisia, right? You choose. Unfortunately, I have no idea what even Nisia does, because even Nisia is not in the early access, right? But I personally think there's one main push per version. So the way I see it is, you see how Firefly, when she launched, she was quite comparable to Rabbi and Boodle. Hey, guess what? A fucking Nova Flare, bro. So even if it were to be the case, right? I feel like just because of the fact that there can only be one main push. Maybe they are comparable. I don't know. I never tried. But if you were to ask me to be a betting man on who is the actual main push, no financial advice, I will lean more towards you. Alright? So like imagine if even Nisia was like Reba, and then Silver Knight is Firefly. You know what I'm saying? Because I bet on their launch, I bet on like Reba's launch, they were very comparable, right? There were even discussions of like Reba being better than Firefly for like some situations, right? Which is fair, right? And when Fuke came out, Fuke's buff for Reba was like technically stronger than Firefly, unless you're E2 Firefly, right? So this is your first decision, choosing an Elation main DPS, right? Not financial advice, just choose whatever you want. Then step 2, right? Step 2, for 1 cost. 1 cost upgrade, as of now, I'll pick Yao Guang. So you get a Yao Guang, and then you plus EMC, which is free, and then use whatever sustain, right? You can use DHPD temporarily. If you have a Huan Huan, you can run Huan Huan, right? Actually, Huan Huan can just do this. Wait. I'm gonna look at my W drawing, guys. I'll look at my W drawing, right? Wait. So this is gonna be your step 2 for 1 cost, right? For your step 3, which is going to be 2 costs, right? If you can invest 2 costs, fuck it, I'll just go E2 Silver Knight. Alright, E2 Silver Knight plus your EMC plus a random slot for temporarily. You don't have to have the best performance right now. Temporarily speaking, you just leave this as whatever. You can run fucking E1 Trip B, run whatever. Because E2 Silver Knight is genuinely just that good, right? Temporarily speaking. And then you plus a sustain, alright? Sustain. Sus. For S4, which is 3 costs, right? For 3 costs. At this point of time, that is when, if you have yourself the E2 Silver Knight, I'll get myself the Sparksy plus EMC. Okay, my handwriting is absolutely fucking atrocious. Plus a sustain. Right? So that's 3 costs. And then at 4 costs, right? If you want to do 4 costs, you get E2 Silver 9 plus Yao Guang. Okay, my handwriting is just going from like dog shit to like. Okay, you know what? And there it is, right? So that's gonna be your 4 costs. And then at S5, which is gonna be your. Am I missing some? Oh. Shit, my bad, guys. Okay. S6, right? Fuck me in the ass, bro. Okay. S5. Okay, S6, right? S6 for 5 costs. Okay. E2 Silver 9 plus Yao Guang plus Sparksy plus the Elation sustain. So E sustain, right? Whenever the Elation sustain comes out, you get an Elation sustain, right? And then from 7 onwards, you can focus more into E2 Sparksy, but it might also depend on what the Elation sustains idol is going to be. So at that point, it's going to be like quite far away, right? So if this chart was helpful, you are absolutely welcome to smash that subscribe. Also, your Argo, thank you so much for the 4 months. Thank you. With regards to Lycon, excellent fucking question, right? With regards to Lycon, from the way I see it, right? Eidolons changes way more than a Lycon, particularly because of the E2. This effect is irreplaceable. And if you have an alternative to this, either the MOC shop, the Mushroom Lycon, or if you want a free Lycon, right? If you want a free Lycon, technically free Lycon, kind of free Lycon from the Battle Pass, you can run Fusion Lycon. It's also not too bad, right? It is not so much that the Lycon sucks. It is just that the E2 is way too fucking good, right? This E2 is really just way too fucking good. So I will prioritize getting this first and then think about the Lycon in the future, right? It's like, would you get Firefly's S1 or would you get an E2 first? You might not afford the E2 now, but even just getting the E1 is an actionable step taken towards the E2. So that is what I would prioritize, essentially, right? Herda stores the Lycon. Wait, is it already in the game? It's already in the game. It is. It is. It is. I guess you could say. Where the fuck? Oh, I guess you could say. It is what it is. Okay, this is the light cone, right? It is basically built for EMC. No one else can actually make use of this anywhere near to as good as EMC. So, pretty much it, right? You will not run this on any of DPS. This is exclusively just for EMC. But speaking about EMC though, chat, this one is for the light spenders, chat. This one is for the light spenders. Did you know, chat? Did you know, bro? I was shocked when I found this because I had to find out for myself. Bro, did you know? Bro, this shit stacks, bro. This shit stacks. So for my light spenders, guys, you could theoretically stack 2 Yao Guang S1s on EMC and Yao Guang for 20% crit rate, 60% crit damage, and both units getting 18% speed and 12% ER. Actually fucking insane that this shit can actually stack. So if you want to go for that, you go for it. But I wouldn't recommend players swiping for this. And the main reason why I say that is because I don't think EMC is going to be in the final team anyways. As ironic as that sounds. Because what I think will actually be the final team is these 3 plus the Elation sustain. Because EMC is not replacing either of these 2. It's a little bit like you wouldn't run RMC with Remembrance Flagship if you already have the full Siren team. Right? So, if you want to be like greedy and stupid, if you want to do like Sustainless runs for now, you could run Sustainless EMC with all 4 Elation, double your 1 Lycon. But it is a very, very temporary kit that in the future, the moment we get that Elation sustain, you are probably not going to be using EMC anymore. Unless you want to use EMC on the second half, Yao Guang on the first half, and you pair EMC with Even Nisia, which at that point is like really strange, because what if Even Nisia also wants Yao Guang as Sparksy, right? So that is pretty much what I would say about the Lycon. Thank you. Right? Does Sparksy need speed now? Oh yes, chat. You absolutely need speed now. Alright, okay, I know this speed boost is absolute fucking dog shit, but we already said it back then, bro. Right, back in Sparksy's first fucking build, right, you need speed on Sparksy now because her speed directly ties with Aha, right? And you ain't gonna be running Sparkle, right? You ain't gonna be fucking running Sparkle. So every single Sparksy, if you wanna run this with Yao Guang as well, Silver 9, you are gonna be transferring her to speed boosts. Because otherwise, she's not getting 2 actions on the very first wave, which is really bad, right? So every single Sparksy should be on speed boosts, right? Spark, okay, is it a world a bit E1 when you have E0? I think players that wants to pick E1 Huan should only be DOT mains. Because if you're running this for now, you're going to take her away when the Elation sustain comes out. So it's very, very short. Alright, but if you're a DOT main that uses sustain, I think that makes sense. Because other than DOT, okay, and I guess Yuimi and Saber, she doesn't really have like a solid spot at the moment. So I would definitely not get this just for Elation. Because Elation, I feel they will definitely get their own Elation sustain. So it's a very temporary thing. You have 8 gold coins. Hell yeah, bro. Do you try Asta Sustainless? Okay. I actually thought about it, but I was a little bit overworked, so I didn't do the team. But theoretically speaking, Asta's speed buff, you can use that to combine with Huan's E1 for, I think this gives you more than 60 speed for the entire team. So you could run like a Asta, Huan, Yao Guang, as well as Silverwolf. Then both Yao Guang and Silverwolf have like 250 speed. Which is like, honestly a little bit silly. But I don't think it's going to be worth it because Asta's damage amplification is basically non-existent. So I would not go for that, right? Okay, yeah, and yes, she has DDD. But the damage amp is just way too low. So unless maybe you have like E2 Silverwolf, right? Maybe you have like E2 Silverwolf and you step on like an Asta. Especially if you do not have either of these units, you can run like Asta, E2 Silverwolf, EMC, and Huawei. That could work. But I think Asta's damage buff is just way too low. Because unfortunately, Silverwolf doesn't really care about attack buffs. So like this shit that she has is like basically useless. So and I want to do. Sounds yeah, it is pretty fun for content. I gave Silverwolf 500 speed. And then we can just see what's up. But in practice, this is not gonna be that good. What about E2 Hyacinth? Okay, first of all, why would you take out Hia away from Mimi? That is very, very sad. Because the only players who own E2 Hyacinth, you're probably a Remembrance main, right? So why are you taking out the literal best sustain for the Remembrance team. Second of all, I personally won't run E2 here over a Huan, because at least Huan's energy regeneration actually impacts these two. So you have a little bit faster rotation here. Alright. Here by herself is really not all that. If you cannot make use of like the HP generation from the kit, as well as the maximum HP increase. So that is pretty much it. Am I gonna pull E2 Silver Knight? Bro, I'm thinking, bro. Bro, I'm pondering, guys. I'm pondering. Bro, I have not pulled for a E2 DPS ever since Evernight, right? As a relatable player, I have not pulled for a... Look, bro, I have a E0 Phynon, guys. I have a E0 Phynon, and I don't even have a E2 Casterus. Fuck it, I don't even have a Casterus, bro. So I feel like to reward for my morals and good behavior, bro, I think E2 Silver Knight will be a pretty decent upgrade, right? It will be what about E2 even easier? We'll think about it, because Star Savior did drain a lot of also the GPU, guys, right? 2.4k, bro, right? So and then what to do? We'll see what's up. Yes, Sparksy will definitely run energy regeneration role, right? She is always on energy. She will never run anything else but energy regeneration. Bro hasn't put an E2 DPS ever since the last 2 DPS. Chat, I did not pull for an E2 DPS for 2 DPS, guys. Oh my god, 2 DPS. Yo, okay, chat, as I was saying, right? So that is pretty much gonna be our discussion for the early access kind of things. We can just chuck the entire thing to the Clips channel as well. And then I will see you guys on the Clips channel. You have E2 Sparksy, but she still runs speed boots. Yep. There's no reason to not run speed boots on Sparksy. Because like having more speed just gives you more turns. And having more turns gives you more energy and punchlines and certified bangers, and having more of that makes your aha faster as well. So there is just no reason to ever run Sparkle on attack boots ever again. And the only time you do that is with Sparkle. And you're not running Sparkle anymore, right? So that is pretty much it. Her attack requirement for Sparksy, it is kind of okay to not hit the attack requirement. Because Bro's role is not really the main DPS anyways. Like, if you want to talk about like damage distribution, right? I would say more than 50% is going to be Silver Knight. And then maybe like 30% is Sparksy, and then 15% is Yao Guang, and the last 5% is like Hui punching. Alright, so majority of the time it is still gonna be more so focused on Silver Knight, and you're not losing that much. You're not losing that much, especially if you already have yourself like a good amount of traces, right? So and then what to do? Itty wordy. Ban Genshin guy. Okay, chat. How about we don't ban Genshin guy? How about we don't ban Genshin guys? Can you guys be nice? Welcome back, Mr. Type. You're absolutely welcome. Also, chat, I have no idea why my Sonic Quest just died here, so it is what I do. But thank you guys so much for our very first return stream. You have cooled your last cool, my man.